Welcome, everybody. I don't know if some of you caught the live earlier today, but we jumped on right after the somewhat weird press conference in Washington, D.C. I got a little fired up. I had to jump on and get rid of some of that venom so that I could give you a high quality live tonight. It's good to see everybody. If you guys would, start typing the like button, tapping the like button, tapping the like button, and let's see if we can get about 10,000 likes so we can get up on the FYP. And if you would, share the live. That's the other thing that gets us out there. I'm going on the phone tonight. We found out the other day that when we go on TikTok Studio, we're having some problems with that not being broadcast out to people's FYPs. You guys know in the past, we've usually got 3, 4, 5, 600 people on our lives. We've only been averaging about 150. I went live on the phone today after that press conference in Washington, D.C. We had 600 people on here. So we're going to continue to go live on the phone. So if the screen looks a little bit different than our normal lives, that's the reason why. I think we need to stick to this and focus on getting the message out to a broader number of people for right now. And once we get that issue fixed, we'll come back and, take a look at maybe getting back onto TikTok Studio. So it's good to see everybody. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about a congressional district out in West Texas where we have a Republican congressman that sponsored the big, beautiful bill that is going to devastate his congressional district. We're going to talk about what happened today in Washington, D.C. and the impacts on the right to protest in D.C., which is one of the reasons I think that the president and the administration are doing this. We're going to talk a little bit about Ukraine, and we're going to do a big discussion on healthcare. Because with all of these other gaslighting, ancillary things going on, I don't want us to forget about the impacts to healthcare, which are going to be really bad at the end of the year. Sleepy Mama, good to see you. Vanessa, good to see you. Boy Toy, I'm with you. Never thought I'd say Boy Toy on a live, but there you go. I had to say it. Carl, good to see you. Mary, good to see you. If you guys would, just keep tapping that like button and let's see if we can get those likes up to 10,000. And once we do, or once we get close, we'll jump out there and we'll start the live. We'll go into great detail. Zeppo should be joining us anytime now. We're going to talk about the events that we have coming up as well. I'm excited about that, especially the telephone town hall that we have coming up for healthcare. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm both, Drew. I'm a Cardinals fan in baseball and a Chiefs fan. So listen, you're not alone, Drew. You're not alone, buddy. I catch heat all the time. I went out to an event in Illinois. We had a Meet in the Middle event in Lincoln, Illinois. I was right on the border of Cardinal and Cubby Nation. And I got about 1 minute into my speech and I realized I had my St. Louis hat on. Oh, Drew, come on. All right, I'm going to give you that one because you seem like a nice person. But you stole that World Series from us, right? In '85. I'm still feeling the pain. I'm still feeling the pain. Let me bring Zeppo up, everybody. Zeppo, how are you?
Doing very well, Will. How are you doing?
Good. I think we've talked a total of about 4 hours today with everything we've got going on. So might as well jump on a live, right?
Yeah, might as well. Nothing else to do. I was just about to text you to say that I'll be on as soon as it starts, and then I realized it was already 4 o'clock. So
Drew's just down there trying to make me feel old. I was a senior in high school when the Royals stole that World Series from us, and Drew's down there telling me he was only one. So I'm feeling old all of a sudden. Thanks, Drew. I'm just kidding. No, I like the Royals, and most of the people in my family are Royals fans, but I've never been a bandwagon fan, so I kind of have always stuck with the teams that I followed in the beginning. And JB, ask your question. We're going to have a little bit of audience participation at the end. Look at that.
What was incredible.
That? Thank you.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah.
Did you tell everyone what hat you were wearing when we went to Lincoln, Illinois?
I did. I literally just told that story right before you jumped on.
Yeah.
So
we're going to have to get, like one of those trunks that all the divas used to carry with them when they travel with all their different dresses. Yeah. But for you, it'll be different baseball teams.
That's right. JB, I'll probably do some audience participation stuff toward the end of the live. That's kind of how we do it. We go through all the issues that we want to cover. Thank you for the great gifts, guys. I really appreciate it. And that's typically how we do it. But we'd love it if you'd stick around for the live. And then when I let everybody know they can request up, you can jump up here. Listen, everybody, I wanted to tell you, Zeppo and I just found out about this the other day, but the heartbeat that you see up at the top there, if you send that as a gift, something it does that I didn't know is it registers you in the fan club, and it makes sure that when we come on live, that you get this notice on your FYP or when we post a video. So tired, people are going to think I paid you to ask that question, but I didn't, right? We do lives on TikTok twice a week. We do them on Monday nights from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then we do them again on Thursday nights from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Zeppo and I are working on getting a schedule together for the Tick of Talk as well, or the U of Tube as well, but we just haven't put it together yet. So you can catch us here every Monday and Thursday night from 6 p.m. To 8 p.m. Central Standard Time.
And let me just add something for the heart me's, because this is an important part of it that I just learned about today from our friends. What you want to do is after you send the heart me, you want to go back in there and you want to claim the rewards that it will give you for sending the heart me. And then it's going to offer you some other options. Usually it's to like send a gift of like 1 penny, 1 TikTok coin, something like that. And the more the you all down there in the chat do that, the more that you'll find out about what we're doing. But you can also win prizes just by hitting that heart meet and participating in that. So after you send the heart meet, be sure and go back in there and you'll see it'll describe to you exactly what to do. Claim a prize or send a thing and just follow the instructions and you'll see what I'm talking about.
I guarantee you within 5 years, Zeppo and I are going to be experts on TikTok, gifting, lives, everything there is to know. Within 5 years, that's our goal, right?
Well, I'm worried that like when we're on like our deathbed, that we're just gonna be talking TikTok language.
There'll be a rules change. I already do it. I actually use the term unalive about a month ago in a conversation.
We're gonna say to the doctor, "Doctor, am I unaliving?"
Yeah, don't let me unalive, please save me. Yeah, that's gonna be great. That's gonna be great. Well, guys, listen, I want to jump into it because there's a lot to talk about, and I want to give you guys an opportunity to come up and talk toward the end of the live. But the first thing I want to talk about is I was out there doing some research in the last couple of days. I put a video out there today about this, but I wanted to talk about the Texas 19th, which is the 19th Congressional District in West Texas. Because I was reading about the people that co-sponsored, not just the folks that voted for the big, beautiful bill, but I was reading about the representatives out there that co-sponsored the big, beautiful bill. And I noticed that one of them was Congressman Jody Arrington from the 19th Congressional District in Texas, which is out in West Texas. Now, having lived in Texas for many years, having relatives there in West Texas, my 2 oldest kids were born in Texas when I lived there. I knew that West Texas was a huge, huge benefactor in regard to Medicaid. So I went out and I did a deep dive into the statistics, and I talked to some folks in healthcare that have been working with us on putting together the telephone town hall that we're going to be doing later this month. And I wanted to tell you guys about some of the statistics that this congressman overlooked. He completely ignored this, or he knew these facts and he just didn't care. He completely overlooked the needs of his constituents to cater to what the president wanted. And I wanted to talk to you about this. And why do I want to talk to you about it? Because listen, in the end, you can put politics aside. Governing is still supposed to be about people. So regardless of whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, governing should still be about people. And we made a decision back in the 1960s that there were too many people in this country that were uninsured. And there was a cost to that. There was a cost to having so many people uninsured. First of all, we had people that just weren't seeking health care because of that. And that raised the mortality rate in this country. And that impacted us from a business perspective. It impacted us from a social safety net perspective because we had parents and grandparents that were passing away much sooner. And because of that, their wards, their children, their grandchildren were becoming a burden on the state. So there were a lot of economic reasons why we decided to pass Medicaid and Medicare. In the 19th congressional district in Texas, let me just kind of set the table for you. It is a primarily rural district. There are very few larger towns in this district. 15.6% of the people in the 19th congressional district in Texas are below the poverty line. Sorry, guys. The national average is 12.4%. So you've got a poverty rate in the 19th congressional district in Texas that's a little over 3% higher than the national rate. Okay? Listen to these numbers. 31.7% of the children in the 19th congressional district in Texas are covered by Medicaid and CHIP. That's 64,200 children. I want you to think about that for a minute, because remember, I always tell you guys that when we're talking about these issues, sometimes we make the mistake of just throwing the number out there and we don't think about what that means in terms of the lives of real people. So 31% of the children in the 19th congressional districts in Texas, that translates into 64,200 children. That's about the same size as the average football stadium for most Division I colleges around the country. Much bigger than many, okay? So I just want you to imagine your favorite football team, your favorite collegiate football team, and I want you to imagine that stadium completely filled with children under the age of 18 that are being covered right now by Medicaid. They're getting 100% of their health care from Medicaid, filling up the favorite college football team stadium of your choice anywhere in the country. Now, on top of that 64,200 children, okay, we've got 26,700 adults in the 19th congressional district in the state of Texas that are receiving their insurance from Medicaid benefits out there. All right. So this is the environment that Jody Arrington represents. This is the congressional district that he represents, okay? 64,000 kids covered by Medicaid, almost 27,000 adults covered by Medicaid, a 15.6% poverty rate, which is 3% above the national average. And listen to what Jody Arrington did. He decided to co-sponsor the big, beautiful bill. It wasn't enough for him just to support it. It wasn't enough for him just to vote for it. He put his name on it as a co-sponsor. And you know what the net result of that is. We've talked about it before, but I'm going to go through these details today. And what I would encourage you to do, and I'm going to post these out on our Discord tomorrow, there are some very specific websites that you can go to that will show you what the impacts of the big, beautiful bill are inside your individual congressional district. So whether you have the bottom line is it was all Republicans that voted for the big, beautiful bill. And you can rest assured, I want to tell you this right now, I've never hidden the fact that I'm a Democrat. Even though the first time I ever voted a straight Democratic ticket was in 2020, I've never hidden the fact that I'm a Democrat. But guess what? No Democrats voted for the big, beautiful bill. None. Zero. So as you're out there communicating to the people in your congressional district, if you're unfortunate enough to live in a district where a Republican congressman supported this bill, we'll give you in the Discord the websites that you need to go to in order to look up what the ramifications are. But I'm going to share some of them with you today. The second thing that we've talked about a lot that the big, beautiful bill did that specifically impacts West Texas is that it reduces and eliminates all of the funding for renewable energy in this country. Let me tell you what that means for Texas and West Texas, okay? First of all, by eliminating these renewable energy funds, they're going to raise the average electricity bill in the 19th district in Texas by $220 per year by 2030 and by $500 a year by 2035. Let me say that again. The elimination of the alternative energy funding that's in place right now, that's going to be eliminated by the big, beautiful bill, it's going to raise the average utility bill on top of what it already is by $220 per year by 2030 and by $500 per year by 2035. It's going to cost the state of Texas 94,000 clean energy jobs. 94,000. Many of those in West Texas, where there's a lot of solar and a lot of wind power. The majority of the jobs that are going to be lost in Texas as a result of these cuts to renewable energy funding will happen in West Texas, including the 19th Congressional District. Listen to this number, because this is staggering. This is a staggering number. It's going to cost Texas $87 billion in GDP loss. $87 billion in GDP loss. Now, I've got a quiz question for you. If this is the first time you've watched us on the Back 40, you may not know the answer to this question, but those of you that watch us on the Back 40, you should know the answer, so I'm going to give you a quiz. How many times does the average dollar go through the economy once it's spent? Once those government funds are dispersed, how many times does the average dollar go through the economy? There's a range there, so if you say any number within that range, I'll be happy with the answer. Let me see your guesses. Put them in the comments real quick. 10, 1. It's a little less than 10 and a lot more than 1. Let me see your guesses. Tom Powell. Tom, I have no doubt that your dollars go through the economy at least 36 times, my friend. Yeah, on average, there you go. You guys got it. On average, if you invest $1 in the United States economy through government funding, especially when you're talking about food stamps, Medicaid, these kinds of things, it goes through the economy 5 to 7 times. So when you talk about losing $87 billion in funding to Texas, much of that in West Texas, okay, multiply that by 5 or 7, and that's the actual total dollars that you're going to lose in regard to spending power because of these program cuts. And remember, I'm going to keep going back to this. Jody Arrington, who's representing Donald Trump in his House seat in Congress, represents a district that has a higher than average poverty rate, a higher than average number of children on Medicaid, and a higher than average number of adults on Medicaid. Listen to this. 6 rural hospitals in the 19th district in West Texas are in danger of being closed. 6 rural hospitals in the 19th Congressional District in West Texas are in danger of being closed. Let me tell you what they are. Get out your Back 40 notebooks, guys, because we're going to do some education tonight. And in just a minute, I'm going to let Billy tell you something a little bit crazy about that. So, hospital closures. Anson General Hospital in Anson, Texas, in danger of closing because of the big, beautiful bill. Covenant Hospital in Plainview, Texas, in the 19th Congressional District, in danger of closing because of the big, beautiful bill. The Scenic Mountain Medical Center in Big Spring, Texas, in danger of closing because of the big, beautiful bill. The Covenant Hospital in Levelland, Texas, in danger of closing because of the big, beautiful bill. The Haskell Memorial Hospital in Haskell, Texas, in danger of closing because of the big, beautiful bill. And the Mitchell County Hospital in Colorado City, Texas, in danger of closing because of the big, beautiful bill. Now, you guys know my personal story. Some of you may be tired of hearing it, but I'm going to ask you to bear with me one more time because we've already had 3,500 people come through the live tonight. And I want to tell this story to remind people about what the real world ramifications are to these cuts. For those of you that don't know, when I was 12 years old, I lived in a rural area. I grew up on a farm. I got my left arm, this skimpy one right here, I got it caught in the power takeoff on a tractor. It almost tore my arm off. And I laid out on the ground for an hour and 50 minutes waiting for the ambulance to arrive and to get the triage treatment that I needed to get to the hospital. It was almost 3 hours from the point that the accident occurred until I was in the emergency room receiving treatment because I lived in a rural area. It took the ambulance drivers, it wasn't their fault. The paramedics were great once they got there, but they were not familiar with the area. It took them a long time to get there because my rural area was off a state highway back on multiple dirt roads. Once they got there, they had to treat me. They had to triage me in a barnyard, and then they got me to the hospital. If that same accident happened today, listen to this, guys, almost 3 hours to get triage treatment. If that same accident happened today, Now, those of you that are in the back 40 that know the answer to this, I'm going to ask you not to answer this question, but everybody else, what do you think? How long do you think it would take me to get treatment today? If that same accident happened today, if God forbid there was a little 12-year-old boy out there that got his arm caught in the power takeoff on a tractor, how long do you think it would be before they could get that little boy to the hospital today if the accident happened in the same place? Let me see your comments. Just throw it in the comments. How long do you think it would take today? 6 hours, 1 hour? Let me see a couple more guesses and then I'll give you guys the answer. There are better resources today. I'll give you a hint. It's a lot better today. It's much, much better today. Much, much better today. 36 minutes. 36 minutes by ambulance. A life flight would probably be even quicker. If that same accident happened today, it would take 36 minutes to get there, triage me, and get me in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And that's because about 7 years after my accident happened, there was a rural hospital built in the largest town close to me of about 7,000 people. And that rural hospital has become the go-to medical triage location for people in that entire rural area. So instead of having to go all the way to Springfield, Missouri now, you've got ambulance services that are provided by CMH Hospital in Bolivar, Missouri, a town of about 10,000. And they're able to get to the scene faster, and they're able to get people to the hospital for triage much quicker. And any of you in the medical industry know that the golden hour is critical to treatment. So I want you to think about that. West Texas, you guys know I talk about this all the time. West Texas, if you stand on a bucket, you can see your dog run away for 5 days. It is a big rural area. There's a lot of ground to cover out there from a healthcare perspective. So I want you to think about 6 rural hospitals with triage care closing in an area like West Texas and what that's going to mean. 6 of them closing in a rural area like West Texas. And guys, that's in one congressional district. Think about that. We're not talking about this huge, broad expanse, of the entire western part of Texas. We're talking about one congressional district in West Texas where we're in danger of seeing 6 hospitals close. Again, leaving the numbers to the side and talking about those real world human impacts, that's going to be people that pass away on the way to the hospital for treatment for a heart attack. That's going to be other little kids and farmers and farm wives that are going to be lost because it takes so long to get them to the hospital for treatment and care. It's the personal, individual stories that we need to continue to share, guys, because that's the impact. That's the real world impact that these cuts are having. And I could tell you my story. Some of you have heard it. It's hard for me to tell it sometimes because I cry at grocery store openings now. I'm a 57-year-old grandpa. I cry at grocery store openings now. But any of you that have ever experienced a life-changing medical event where you were truly lying there wondering, is this it? Is this it? Is this the day? Am I going to make it? Knowing that you have healthcare close by, knowing that if the ambulance can just get there on time and triage you and get you to the professionals at a hospital, it does wonders. It does wonders to your psyche. It does wonders not only for your treatment, but for your recovery. Because I will tell you, and I still remember this, it's the thing I remember most about my accident when I was 12 years old was the hopelessness of just laying out there for almost 2 hours, not knowing if anybody was going to get there to help. And there were a lot of things I didn't understand as a 12-year-old kid, believe me. I mean, an adult would have laid there and known, okay, it may take a while, but somebody's going to get here. But these are the real life agonies that people are going to have to go through because of the healthcare cuts that we're putting in place. So we've got to encourage people. Put aside the label of Democrat. Put aside the label of Republican. Put aside the label of non-political or independent. And we've got to talk about the real world ramifications. All of you on here know somebody that's been involved in an accident. You know somebody that's been involved in an accident, and you may know somebody that didn't make it because of the distance they had to travel to a hospital. Or you may know somebody that did make it because there was a hospital close by. I'll tell you about a couple of conversations I've had just in the last few months. You guys remember I went to Washington, D.C. to a sustainable investment conference just a few months ago. They wanted me to talk about the issues facing rural America. And you remember what I told you when I was driving out there? I got a call from somebody who was a first responder in the Midwest. And they told me, Will, I want to talk to you about something that I don't think anybody else has mentioned to you. They messaged me, they gave me their phone number, I gave them a call. And they told me, we lose people every month in rural America because of the distance they have to travel to get to a quality regional healthcare center. And I told the person when they called, it's somebody that appears regularly in our lives. I told the person when I called, I said, you know what? You're the second first responder to tell me that in the last month. Because I talked to somebody in the state of Tennessee. I talked to the wife of a first responder in Tennessee. You guys remember that big rash of tornadoes they had down there several months ago? She told me the exact same thing, that they had lost people that had been injured in the tornadoes on their way to the hospital purely because of the distance that they had to travel. So I don't want to be preachy about it, but I do want to just keep reminding you guys, don't just stop at the numbers. When you're talking to your neighbors, when you're talking to other people in rural America, etc., don't stop at the number. Take it further than that. Tell your personal stories. If you can get on social media and you can tell those personal stories on social media, maybe you're somebody that has had issues with your heart and you live on a farm or you live in rural America and you know that if anything goes wrong, it's going to be an hour and a half to get you to good medical care. Tell that story and talk about the fact that you deserve the same right to quality health care that other people do. You deserve that right. And God forbid another 12-year-old kid out there get their arm caught in a power takeoff. What did they ever do wrong? What political side did they choose? What mistake did they make in their ideology that causes them to deserve to have to lay there for that long to get the help that they need? They didn't do anything. Are we so far gone as a divided nation? Are we so far caught up in the tribalism? Are we so married to Democrat, Republican, and Independent that we can't agree that a child that gets hurt on a farm in this country deserves the best quality health care that they can get? Are we so caught up in the labels that we no longer believe that? If we are, it might be too late, but I don't believe that we are. I still think that there's a possibility, a chance, that we can set these labels aside and we can pass good policy. And that's going to mean a lot of people not admitting that they were wrong, but admitting that they were lied to. And that if these policies continue, it's going to set up an environment in rural America that's dangerous for all of us. And listen, guys, you're going to learn on the telephone town hall that I'm going to talk about in just a minute that the issues that we're facing in rural America are very similar to the issues that we're going to face in our inner cities and in our suburbs as a result of these cuts. We're all in the same boat together, regardless of political party. Regardless of sex, gender, race, whatever it might be, we're all going to face the same challenges. We're all going to face the same challenges. Angela, I'm glad to hear that. And that might have been the difference, right, Angela? 6 miles. You know, instead of making the trip all the way to Springfield or waiting for an ambulance to come to get them there. We've got to tell these personal stories. We've got to. Let me tell you about something we've got coming up. I think it's important, and then I'm going to let Zeppo talk for just a little bit. We have got a telephone town hall. I want to give everybody just a minute. I want you to get out a piece of paper, and I want you to get out a pen. Or I want you to take your phone and I want you to text this to yourself or go to the notes. We've got a really important event coming up on August 26th. Tuesday, August 26th, the Back 40 is going to be hosting a nationwide telephone town hall on the impacts of the big, beautiful bill on healthcare in rural America. And remember, the impacts that this has on rural America are going to be very similar to the impacts it has across the country. But on August 26th, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. That's 6 o'clock in California, 7 o'clock in Denver, 8 o'clock here in the Midwest, Chicago time zone, and 9 o'clock on the East Coast. We're going to host a telephone town hall with the National Rural Health Association. This is what that call is going to look like. We're going to start it out, and we're going to have 2 stories at the beginning of that call. PM. Sorry, guys, PM. We're going to have 2 stories at the beginning of that call. We're going to have somebody come on who's going to talk about the personal impacts of these Medicaid cuts on them personally. What it's going to mean for them, what it's going to mean for their family, these cuts. Then we're going to have a hospital administrator come on and talk about what these cuts are going to mean for keeping their rural hospital open. August 26th, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Then we're going to spend about 25 minutes talking about the impacts of the big, beautiful bill on healthcare. The big, beautiful bill on healthcare. And we're going to go into great detail. I'm going to talk about this toward the end of the live today, but we're going to talk about how many people are going to lose insurance. We're going to talk about something not many people are talking about, which is all of the additional subsidies for the ACA that go away at the end of this year that are going to cost a little over 3 million people their health care. We're going to talk about all this. But most importantly, you guys know we love to talk about solutions on the back 40. Toward the end of the call, we're going to be talking about what we can do between now and the end of the year to mitigate for this horrible legislation. Just so you guys know, I've put out videos on every one of the social media platforms about this call. There's a flyer on there. You can pause the video and screenshot the flyer and share it with anybody you want to. Okay? So it's already out there on social media. The flyer is. We'll put it out on the Discord page as well. And we're going to have it up on the website, hopefully by the end of the weekend. But it's going to be Tuesday, August 26th, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Here's the call-in number. This is toll-free. Anybody can join. There's no cost for you guys. We're going to pick up all of the cost at the back 40. You can dial 1-800-631-4291. 1-800-631-4291. It's on the flyer. It's on all the social media platforms. It'll be on the Discord, and we're going to have it on the website soon. Okay? All you have to do is call into that number, and you just stay on the line, and it will drop you into the telephone town hall. You'll be able to ask questions there. We've got operators at the back 40. They're going to be manning those calls. If you want to ask a question, you just hit 1, and you'll go to a live operator. You can tell them what your question is. They'll ask it on the call, and we'll get you an answer to your question. Then after that, for the next 2 nights after that, we're going to be doing lives on social media to talk about these issues, to go into more detail. We're going to have some candidates and politicians from around the country coming on to talk about these impacts. One more time, the number, 1-800-631-4291. And I'm pretty sure Zeppo probably will drop that in the comments for us. But don't miss that telephone town hall. And listen, guys, this is a telephone town hall number that you need to share with everybody. Let them know this is going to be a nonpartisan call, guys. We have to make it a nonpartisan call because we're working with the National Rural Health Association. So this is going to be a nonpartisan call. We're going to stick to the issues. Everybody knows who passed these policies, right? Everybody knows who passed these policies. So you need to tell your Republican friends, you need to tell your Democratic friends, you need to tell your non-political friends. They need to be on this call because what they're going to hear there is it's just going to communicate to them better than I ever could alone. This dark cloud that's brewing over rural America. This dark cloud that's brewing over rural America. And what it's going to mean. I'm going to talk more about this toward the end of the live. And we're going to cover the statistics of what these cuts are going to mean. But I want you guys to be on that call. All right, Zeppo, I want you to talk about the great back 40 notebook that we've got. And why don't you tell people about some of the events we have coming up?
All right, sure. Yeah. If you go to, as you heard Will say earlier, that he wanted you to jot down some notes. If you go to our website, the back40official.com, that's the back40official, and it's all spelled out, FORTY.com. You'll see we have a little store there. You can buy our merchandise. And in the store, there's a brand new notebook. It's Will's notebook, and it's got the Back 40 logo on it. It's a really nice hardcover notebook. It's one of those really nice ones where it's got like a band to keep it closed, and then it's got a little page saver on it. And then on the back cover, there's a little pocket where you can stick notes or clippings or whatever. You can even put a pen inside there. So you can pick up one of these notebooks. Now, remember, when you buy these notebooks, you're actually contributing to the work. Every penny above the cost of the notebook goes towards us being able to do these things, like offering free telephone town halls, because we want to do these once a month or more if we can, and they'll be on different subjects. So it helps to keep these things going so everyone gets this information, because when we give them the information, they tend to vote for the right policies. So we want to keep doing this work. So head on over to the back40official.com, check out the merchandise, and you'll see the new notebook in there. And you can keep all your notes from Will's Lives in that notebook. We'd really appreciate it. Helps us out a lot. The other thing you can do is you can subscribe here. That's another way you can support us. You can make sure that you hit that heart meet at the top of the screen. You see the little heart. And make sure that after you hit the heart me, you go back in there and you claim all your prizes and things like that. That helps keep us on the For You page, gets the word out much faster. So we'd really appreciate that. Of course, we welcome the gifts. We like the gifts, so thank you for that. The other thing you can do is, if you're really feeling feisty and fired up and ready to go.
Hey, thank you, Coach Gene, for the 7-month subscriptions, Eppo.
Oh, we like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that means we got to stick around for at least 7 months. Will.
That's right. Yep. Just for you, Coach.
The other thing you can do is, we do have an ActBlue account because we have a nonprofit, and the nonprofit is called Back 40 Action. So it's just Back 40 Action. So if you go to back40action.org, O-R-G, back40action.org, you'll see there's a way for you there to donate to the nonprofit. It goes right through the ActBlue account, so we really appreciate anything. Just remember, we know money's tight for some people. Every little bit helps. If you can donate $3, we'll take it. This stuff does add up, and it helps us continue the work that we're doing. We want to be going all around the country. We're hitting things. You'll see both on the digital side and in the in-person side, where Will's traveling around the country. Sometimes we even travel with Mr. Global. And we go to small rural towns. We get the community together. We inform and educate them. We get everyone fired up, and we point them in the right direction to take action so that we can defeat this administration and get back onto getting good rural America policies. So to that end, I'll tell you about the event we've got coming up in Virginia, which is going to be September 26th, 27th, and 28th. We're actually doing 3 Meet in the Middle events. And a Meet in the Middle event is an opportunity for the entire community to come together, because we found that when we bring the community together, no matter where you fit on that political spectrum, your guard comes down, you take your mask off, and you see your neighbors, and you just speak to each other like neighbors used to do, and you find out that we have much more in common than we don't. And then it's an opportunity to really talk about policy, talk about some of the challenges across rural America, and more importantly, the solutions and how we get there so that we can revitalize rural America. That's the important part. So that's on the calendar now, September 26th, 27th, and 28th. The details are still being formed, like exactly where we're going to be and exactly what time each event is going to start. We're still figuring that out, but it should be all ironed out by, I would say, within the next 2 weeks. So we'll get all that information there. But meanwhile, mark your calendars for the 26th, 27th, and 28th of September. After that, excuse me, we're going to be looking at doing more events in Illinois, and we're going to be looking at doing more events in our first events in Pennsylvania. So we have some people that are part of the back 40. I didn't actually ask if I have permission to say their names yet, so I will do that. But some of you may know them. They are stepping up and helping us. There's actually two groups in Pennsylvania, two separate groups that want to do an event there. So we're going to see if we get everyone together, and we'll be doing two completely different sides of the state. And I can imagine there we will also end up doing 2 or 3 meet in the middle events. We've also got Minnesota shaping up, and that's actually might happen before Virginia in the middle of September. I'm going to have a call with them on Thursday. They've been talking amongst each other, and the way this happens is we get a local organizer in the area. We tell them how to build on their interest in having one of these meet in the middle events. They then get in touch with supporting organizations like democratic clubs, youth groups, student groups, things like that. They reach out to surrounding counties, and together we all make it happen. So we pulled together the funds to rent the space, to have the event, things of that nature, make sure there's a sound system there, all that kind of stuff. So we help you get these things done. So if you have a place that you want Will to come and to speak at, all you have to do is send an email to info@theback40official.com. That's info@theback40official.com. And let us know where you are. Let us know if you're interested in helping organize one of these events. And then I will set up a phone call with you, and I'll go over everything, and we'll figure out if this is actually something you want to do. And we'll figure out where you can turn to for some support and some help. In a couple of cases, Indivisible is stepping up and helping these things pop off. So we really appreciate that. But the point is, we will help you pull these things off. You're not doing it by yourself. We're there the whole way to make this thing happen. And that's it for now, Will.
That's right. And, just because he appears to be an international sex symbol in our comments today, we're taking Mr. Global along with us.
It's weird
seen
every
so
time.
many people make the comment that they're passionately and madly in love with you, Matt. You should.
It's weird. It's weird every time I mention his name, he shows up. I don't know if he's like got a microphone.
He's like
planted.
Beetlejuice, except you only have
Yeah.
to say it once.
That's how this app works.
Yeah.
It's true. It is. True.
I used to not buy into that, Matt, but I got to tell you something. The other day, my daughter was here. She came up from Texas because we had family pictures this weekend. We decided to do it when it was 197 degrees Fahrenheit with humidity of 141, which is the day you always want to have pictures. She's sitting in the living room, and I let her have the good recliner, the fancy one that they sent me because of my bad hip. And I told her, I said, my wellies have a hole in them. I cut the side of my wellies up at the farm, and I go, I need to get a new pair of wellies, a new pair of boots. I'm not kidding you. She left to go, hang out with my sons, and I pull up my, I don't want to say what app. I pull up a at-home purchase app, and there are 5 welly brands advertised on the front page. I didn't Google it. I didn't search it. My phone was sitting on the table beside me. That tells me all I need to know, man. That was creepy. That was creepy. And this is something that you guys probably all know, but the fact that it heard me talking about it even, now I'm paranoid. Every time my best friend calls me, I turn my phone off now.
The first 2 words when I was scrolling and I come across this live, the first 2 words I heard were Mr. Global.
There you go. There you go. Well, that could be anywhere in America, Matt. Come on.
All right.
You could walk into a Walmart in Sandusky, Ohio, and the first 2 words you might hear there are Mr. Global was talking about energy prices going up last night.
Probably Tommy Boy.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about these trips that we're going to make. I was going to reach out to you tonight in text and talk to you tomorrow. Our Perry, Oklahoma visit is going to be postponed. We're going to have to reschedule that one. But the good news is this. Made contact with some good folks in Stillwater, Oklahoma today that are going to help us get that event rescheduled. So I'm really excited about that. And then you and I are going to be headed off to the beautiful agricultural states of Minnesota and Virginia. And we may just have to get legal residency there because it sounds like these are turning into multi-day events.
Really?
Yeah, and can I tell you? All right, I didn't want to bring this up in front of thousands of viewers, but Matt, my feelings got hurt a little bit today, and it's because of you.
295.
It's
What about
because of you. Is it okay if I tell the story live?
Sure. I don't even know what it is. I don't care.
Well, listen, I'm working really hard to get these events put together, and I really appreciate the fact that you come along with me because you know more about gas and oil. You've forgotten more about gas and oil than I could ever remember. We were talking to some folks today. I don't want to say which event because I don't want you, I don't want you to be self-conscious about it, but they basically on the phone with Billy today said, and by the way, we're going to need an event alone with Mr. Global without Will there because he is the master of energy. And the people that want to talk to him at this event, they don't even know Will. They don't care about what he's talking about. We need the real expert, Mr. Global there.
Well,
So
yeah,
I know where I stand now on the social media creator pecking order. And sometimes it's good just to get that slap down to your ego, so
their exact words was, "Does Will have to be there?"
yeah,
It was
that's
kind of
exactly
like
what they
that
said.
moaning at the end.
So, but no, all kidding aside, though, at the Virginia event, I think they may have some students out there, especially that really want to talk energy policy with you. So I might as well just tell you in front of everybody where you can't say no. We're gonna put an energy event together for you. So
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I got to ask you because this was my next topic that I was going to talk about today. What did you think about the press conference in Washington, D.C. today? Did you watch it?
Not really.
Yeah. Well, I wish I hadn't.
I don't watch Donald Trump's. I don't watch
Yeah.
politicians speak at all. I really don't. I can't stand them. Any of them. So
I wish I had
they're
one.
speaking, I'm doing something else.
I had to have a live today because I was so fired up after the press conference today. First of all, I'm just going to say this, and anybody that follows you or anybody that follows me, they know that we don't make fun of personal physical characteristics. We just don't do that, either one of us.
That's right.
But I got to tell you, there was something weird going on with our FBI director and with Janine Pirro or whatever her name is. That was weird. That almost made me believe in this whole lizard person theory. You know what I'm talking about? The one like where they're. I've never seen anything like it. It was
I saw
really
that.
strange.
I saw it.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
saw
am I wrong?
I saw Cash Patel.
Yeah.
I don't guess I saw the other one, but I saw Cash Patel. Like the video I saw, someone made a video about him. It looked like he didn't blink for like a long
Yeah.
time. Like maybe the whole. I don't know how long he went without blinking.
I mean, I am saying this partially for humorous effect, but the other part of it was truly weird. Like, I've met a lot of people in my life. I'm just like you. I've had businesses. I had to sit through a lot of presentations. I've done a lot of presentations. I have never seen anything like that in 30 years of doing what I do. It was just really, really strange, you know?
He looked very tight. Like he looked like. I mean, he looked like he was stiff as a board, and his eyes were like that big.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. I think so too. Well, I did a little deep dive. You're not going to be surprised by this because I think you do the same thing whenever you see something crazy. I did a little deep dive into the facts and figures behind the president's press conference today. And I think everybody's going to be shocked to learn that some of the data that was brought up by the Attorney General and the other people at the press conference today, it turns out, Mr. Global, that some of that data was incorrect. I know that you're going to be shocked by that, but it turns out that some of the data that was offered up in the press conference today was wrong. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine?
shocking.
So the first thing that was said is that Washington, D.C. is one of the most violent cities in the entire world. Now, I knew immediately, because I'm a crime buff, right? I knew immediately that this was wrong. Okay? I knew immediately that this was wrong. So I looked it up. I mean, it's crazy. We've got this thing on the internet. You can go in there and you can type in, show me a legitimate study listing the top 100 crime cities in the entire world. And it may shock you to learn that Washington, D.C. is not even in the top 50. It's not even in the top 50. Guess who is in the top 50? St. Louis, Missouri. 3 hours up the road for me. St. Louis, Missouri, sitting there at number 27.
I bet Tulsa's there.
It wasn't in the top 50.
Tulsa?
Lucky for you. There were
Really?
only 2 American cities in the top 50. Baltimore, like at number 12.
Oh, it was the world.
Yeah, in the world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then St. Louis at number 27. But Washington, D.C., because one of the justifications that they're trying to use is it's one of the most violent cities in the world, therefore we need to call it the National Guard, not even in the top 50. It's also going to shock you to learn, Mr. Global, that contrary to what they said, that the crime rate is out of control and growing higher every day, would you believe that the actual statistics from the FBI issued by this administration, which is led by Donald J. Trump himself, says that there's been a 35% drop in violent crime in Washington, D.C., and a 15% drop in overall crime? Now, these statistics were not produced by the left-leaning George Soros Foundation. These are the statistics from the FBI, where the guy that never blinks is the leader.
I do believe that. I did a video on that.
Yeah. So I'm starting to think, just stay with me here, okay? Don't let me lose you, because I don't want you to think I'm jumping down a conspiracy theory hole here. But I'm starting to think that what he's doing doesn't have anything to do with crime and might have something to do with dictatorial tendencies. I mean, am I way out in left field? Is there a chance?
There's a chance.
Yeah. Guess what else I looked up?
Oh boy, what?
Well, let me set the table a little bit. I know how you love to set the table, so let me pull Mr. Global. I'm going to set the table a little bit here, okay? So we've been talking about, and I've seen your videos too, we've been talking a lot about opinion polling here, how it relates to the president. So his opinion polls are an all-time low of any president at this stage of his administration since we started keeping polls, okay? Number one. Number two, he's got the lowest rating among independents of any president since World War II. He's sitting at 28%, worse than Carter. Everybody thinks Jimmy Carter, one of the most honest presidents we ever had, everybody thinks Jimmy Carter had the worst approval rating in the country. No, Donald Trump's got him beat. Jimmy Carter was double digits ahead of Donald J. Trump. And what's happening is this drop in his independent approval rating has caused him to drop 9% overall in rural America. Because everybody thinks that I don't want to paint with a broad brush. There are a lot of people on my side that think anybody that votes for Donald Trump is a MAGA person and a registered Republican, when the truth is he gets a lot of the independent vote as well. So the poll numbers are bad. The poll numbers are really bad. And what that's translating into, if I could put my political consultant hat, your favorite rural campaign and election guy hat on, what that's leading to is a really scary number out there in terms of the midterm elections that are coming up. So I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of the redistricting, which is absolutely 100% an effort to try to mitigate for those bad poll numbers and what's going to happen in the midterms. But all of this bad polling, all of these bad policies, all of these protests around the country, it's also resulted in a record number of protests being scheduled by nationwide organizations for guess what city, Mr. Global?
Tulsa.
Close. If you go a little further down the alphabet into the W's.
Washington.
Yeah. Washington, D.C. Can you believe that?
I can.
It turns out, Mr. Global, that if you blow up American healthcare, if you shit all over the American people, if you kick little kids off of insurance, if you take American citizens off the street and send them around the world on the basis of the lie that they're undocumented immigrants, if you end renewable energy and double the energy bills in this country, it turns out that people get upset about that.
They really do. They do.
Yeah. Crazy. And in turn, national organizations reach out and say, if you're really pissed off, come join us in Washington, D.C. So we've got a record number of scheduled protests. And guess where those are publicized? Right out there on the internet. Because if you want people to show up, you have to tell everybody when to come and when to be there. So I had to take my shoes and socks off so I could count with my fingers and my toes. But I figured out that there may be a causal link between locking down the city of Washington, D.C., and maybe preventing these protests that are scheduled in record numbers over the next few months. So am I crazy? What are your thoughts? Let me know. What do you think? Do you think there could be a link?
Yes, there is a link.
Yeah.
I didn't hear everything you said because, like, for the last 15 seconds, you were frozen. But yes, there's a link.
Well, I just want to tell everyone in the live, you're welcome, because you got to see my powerful masculinity en masse on display for 15 seconds of frozen screen time. But basically, for everybody that didn't hear what I said, I'm just making the argument that we could be shutting down Washington, D.C. as a direct result of the record number of protests we have coming.
Yes.
So there's a game being played here. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. The other fact that I think you'll find interesting, because I know you care about our veterans. You've got veterans in your family. I've got veterans in my family. This guy right here, World War II vet. He was my stand-in dad after my pops passed away. Guess what percentage of the homeless people in Washington, D.C. are veterans?
Zeppo? Were you
Anybody.
pointing at Zeppo?
Yeah, Zeppo.
Zeppo
Anybody.
was your stand-in dad?
Oh, he's pointing to the picture on the wall behind you.
Oh, yeah. No, not over here, right here. So let me see in the comments. Let's have a little quiz question out here, Mr. Golden. We got a little quiz question. How many of the homeless people in Washington, D.C., everybody out there in the back 40, what percentage do you think are vets? You guys are pretty high. I'm going to tell you that it's less than 20%. So let me see your guesses down there. 18% is a lot closer. 13% of the homeless population in the city of Washington, D.C. are vets.
Yes.
And unless I heard something wrong, the President of the United States of America is going to use the National Guard to round up our homeless veterans, put them on buses, and ship them, quote unquote, somewhere where you'll have a place to stay. We're going to use the military to dishonor the military.
Yep.
What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Anyway, you can tell by my diatribe that I'm partially opposed to this plan.
Certainly.
I'm partially opposed to this plan. So, the other thing I found out today, Mr. Global, called a friend of mine that works in the city of Washington, D.C., works for the city. And I said, like, how could you guys not let people know this was coming? Silly me, thinking that the federal government was working correctly. If you guys knew about this, how could you not communicate it ahead of time so that people could push back against it? Well, guess what I learned when I asked that question?
What's that?
They had no clue. They didn't work with the city. They didn't announce it in advance. They didn't talk with anyone at the city. They didn't discuss it with the mayor. They didn't discuss it with the police. The city of Washington, D.C., the police chief of Washington, D.C., and the mayor of Washington, D.C. heard about it at the same time we did today when the press conference was announced. That tracks.
That's how it usually works.
Yeah, that tracks. That absolutely tracks. So I'm just going to say, I think it's all about control. I really do. And I'm going to get off the facetious angry bastard box here that I've been on for the last 15 minutes. And I'm going to just say, in all seriousness, that I do believe this is all about control. I don't agree with people that try to say it's just a distraction from the other things that are going on. I do think this is a calculated move to control the city of Washington, D.C. in a dictatorial way that's going to limit people's voices. I really think that's the plan. You know, I do.
He's stupid enough to believe that by controlling Washington D.C., he can control the all the states. I don't think he really does understand how elections work. But he did also announce that he wants to do this in other cities: Los Angeles, New York, Chicago. And as someone pointed out in the chat, there have been protests here in Los Angeles all day long. In fact, it's been for days, and it's not on the news. And I'm not talking about like 10 people on a corner. I'm talking about protests the size
Yeah.
of there were before. The entirety of downtown LA, there are protests going on. People here are absolutely furious. And if you want to find out, which group is mad or who's pissed off exactly, or which ethnic group, or it's all of them. Everybody is pissed off because this idea that this guy has that he's going to be in charge of the cities is absolutely asinine. And but it's going to be very important for everyone to step up and be very vocal and draw a line and say absolutely not, because the more he gets away with this crap, the more he's going to try. And this is there's been many bridges too far, but this is an absolute no from everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, sadly, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but sadly, there's just more bad news to come. I mean, I know, we've picked up a couple hundred people since you came into the live, Mr. Global. So I know a lot of your followers are in here. Anybody that doesn't follow Mr. Global, which I doubt there are many people in here, you need to follow him, because sadly, the only thing that's going to happen is it's going to get worse. On top of all the political chaos that's going on out there, we're hearing these stories from you with documentation about how energy prices are only going to climb. And I told you on the live on Monday night, or on Thursday night, I think it was, that I got my bill for the farm, and I got to tell you, it's already started, you know, and I haven't even turned on the heaters and dehumidifiers and other things I need for what I raise there that have to come on in the wintertime. It's only going to get worse. I can't imagine, I can't imagine.
Yeah, and I would suggest anyone in here, if you want to continue seeing us, you might want to follow us on other apps like YouTube or elsewhere, because we're dropping like flies on TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah. To your point, I think maybe you mentioned this in a video several weeks ago, where you were talking about the fact that your drop rate of followers was happening at exactly the same rate as the new people that were following you. And it quit doing that to me about a week ago, but I had about 2 months there where exactly the same thing was happening. So yeah, I would encourage everybody to go out there and follow us on the tube as well, because it's just a great place to follow. Mr. Global is Mr. Global, and I'm Westmoreland Pops, and you guys should definitely follow us on there.
I wanted to ask Mr. Global a question, if I could.
Yeah, please.
Mr. Global, raise your right hand. What I want to ask you is there any, like how obedient you are, is there any reason that you can think of other than geography that this alleged meeting with Putin is going to happen in Alaska?
No.
I mean, I'll give you hints. Like, okay, fair enough. There's
You piqued my curiosity too, Zeppo.
Okay, well, there's conspiracy theories abound that, based on Russia being essentially a gas station with how do we say the N word on schmucular,
You,
Basically, a gas
you
station
scared
with
me there
soup.
for a minute, Zeppo.
Me too.
Skip right over that. Um, he he so there's like a conspiracy that there's something in it, like there's a reason for Alaska because we've got a lot of energy there, so people are speculating that there's some deal to be made there, like some energy deal to be made. That doesn't add up to anything in your eyes.
I mean, I would be surprised, honestly. It's probably the only place Putin was willing to go. I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah,
he
because
can
that
just
guy
take.
is just as scared as the leader of North Korea when it comes right down to it.
If it's an energy deal, that's really bad because you know Russia's energy is nationalized. So if we did
Yeah.
an energy deal with Russia, then like Russia would own a part of the United States, basically. Like so, that would not be good.
You know, that kind of sets the table for me on the Ukraine issue because I saw today, I read an article in Foreign Affairs that, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the gifts, guys. We had some great gifts tonight, and I really appreciate it. But I read an article today about the fact that basically Trump has now come out and said, you know, Zelensky can attend the talks, but he's not going to be allowed to participate. And our allies around the world that have been working with us for decades since World War II to secure freedom, they're fired up. You know, they want to see. I mean, you're going to negotiate a peace between two countries at war, and you're only going to let one side have a discussion. You know, have a role in the negotiation. Ukraine's never going to agree to a ceasefire and a peace deal that doesn't include them as a country. And so this is where we are right now. You know, we were going to solve this problem on day one. And now here we are months into the administration, and we're still not even to the point where we can admit that in order to win this war, we need to have both the parties who are involved in it at the same table talking to one another. And that's purely driven by Putin. I mean, we're absolutely carrying water for him. So
Yes.
nothing would surprise me. I know nothing about energy like you, Mr. Global, but nothing would surprise me in our efforts to kowtow, you know, to Putin and his economic designs.
Yeah, Putin's just running circles around Donald Trump, and we're right back to where we started 6 months ago, basically.
Yeah.
There's no progress, but everyone predicted that. Everyone said Putin would run circles around Trump and run him ragged, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's going to drag him around on a leash for the next 3.5 years.
Yeah, I want to bring, let me see, hold on one second here. If Michael,
I want
here he
people
is.
to
Hold on.
understand,
Hold on one
even
second.
even if a deal was made with with Putin for some kind of concession of the geography of Ukraine, the people of Ukraine would never accept it, and Zelensky knows that. So whatever deal he thinks he's cooking up with Putin, it's not going to stand with Zelensky and the Ukrainian leadership.
Yeah. You know, while we're on this topic, Michael, would you mind telling everybody what you do? And then I'd love to get your thoughts on this. And you need to come hang out sometime with Mr. Global and I after you retire so you can talk about some of this stuff. But can you give everybody just a breakdown that you feel comfortable with, you know, about what you do? And can you talk a little bit about what we're discussing here between Trump and Putin?
Yeah. Hey, Will. How are you?
It's good. I'm really good to see you, first of all. It's been a day.
Day. I'm been a little busy trying to get a daughter off to college, and been last couple of days been moving our daughter up to UGA for school. But yeah. So for 31 years, I served in uniform. So graduated from the Senior Service College. I've got a master's degree in national security strategy. I worked strategy inside the Pentagon for 8 years, in between deployments. So I'm pretty familiar with what's going on. I still follow it. Still have friends that are closely tied to what's going on in Ukraine. Matter of fact, I have a very close friend that just came back from Ukraine and was working with Catholic Charities and Prevail, which is Adam Kinzinger's group that does humanitarian assistance there. And so have regular conversations with him. So, yeah, this is. You keep asking. One of the questions was, why are they having this in Alaska? So, this is a win for Putin. So, Putin wants to elevate his country, which is far inferior to our country in every element of national power within, the Russian elements of national power. Their economy is smaller than what Italy's economy is. So, um, Putin is playing Trump, and so this is for the best way to describe it, I guess, is this is Putin's wet dream to like be invited on U.S. soil to have bilateral discussions regarding Ukraine. So, the president of the United States has elevated, a dictator that doesn't deserve to be, elevated, and by agreeing to have this meeting, and Putin is going to play him. Vladimir Putin can talk about the history of Russia for 2 hours. So when Trump says, "I'll know within the first 2 minutes," he's a former KGB agent. He is going to play Trump like a fiddle, and he's going to waste time. He's going to talk about the history of the Orthodox Church back to Peter the Great, and move forward and just waste everyone's time in this. And by doing that, he wins. So he'll only thing this is a distraction from everything else that's going on. The Epstein files won't go away. So this is a distraction from that. Pretty scary what I saw today as far as federalizing the DC police force.
Yeah.
This is fascism 101. It's kind of crazy. So this is a trial run for something else. This is a trial run for how we're going to, or what his response is going to be to civil disturbance. And if you don't think that he learned something on how to handle this from the civil disturbance that happened after the George Floyd, protest, and after everything that happened with COVID during the first administration, he now has a playbook. He has people that are surrounding him that won't tell him that this is not a very good idea. So, he's got the playbook on how he's going to handle this moving forward. So if you don't think that he learned something from the first time that this happened, he learned a lot from the first time this happened. And any type of, civil unrest that we are going to see in the streets moving forward, this is the way that they're going to handle it. And it's going to be handled, it's going to be handled with a lot of force probably. And that is just a really sad thing to see. And especially from a former soldier who spent 30 years in uniform and is very familiar with posse comitatus and defense support to civil authorities. This is not what we took an oath to do.
Yeah. Guys, you're hearing this from a national security expert. And by the way, I think George Soros just dropped into the gift column for Mr. Global. I'm going to tell everyone thank you on behalf of Mr. Global. That might be the coolest gift I've ever seen, Matt.
Hey, Michael, let me ask you this. So do you agree that for Trump to do what you're suggesting in D.C., that it's easier for him to do it in Washington, D.C. than, say, anywhere else, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, which are other cities that he mentioned?
D.C. is not a state, so we all know that. So, but if you listen to the mayor and you listen to the police chief of the D.C. police force, there are statutes that unfortunately allow him to skirt what the rule of law is regarding this. And so it's really interesting to if you go back to January 6th and he blamed the inability to call the National Guard out on Nancy Pelosi. So, I know how this works. And so I know how the alert orders go out. I know who signs the alert orders. And so, hey, if you want to look at something like kind of interesting, his nomination for a DoD for the attorney to advise the Secretary of Defense is a guy named Earl Matthews, and so he has a long history and testified, in front of both the House and the Senate following January 6th. So on the ability to activate the Guard. So I'm not really sure. I haven't looked at where his nomination is in the process, but look up Earl Matthews.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, stay up here for just a second if you don't mind. I mean, if you have to go, I understand, but stay up for just a second because I want to ask a question to Mr. Global. Matt, what's the worst case scenario of what could happen in terms of energy and energy cost here in the United States when it comes to this love affair between Putin and Trump? I know you've done multiple videos on this over the past few years, but can you give us like a couple-minute breakdown of, like, personally, where do you think this is going? What's the worst case scenario? What do you think is actually going to happen on energy?
I was trying to find the person that gave me those gifts.
Yep. Hey, I'll send it to you. I can see that in the live summary. I'll send it to you after. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, our worst case scenario on energy isn't really related to Putin. It's our own failures.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really is our own failures. Are you talking about Russian oil or what?
Yeah, I just wondered, like, what happens, and I'm not talking about, if they've got compromat on them or something like that, but I'm just thinking, like, what if he goes, off the capitalism ledge with Putin and says sanctions are going to be lifted, you can start selling your oil in other places if you end this war in Ukraine, or there's some version of a ceasefire. What would that do to markets if all of that new product, is dumped onto the marketplace?
So a lot of people think it would crash markets, but I'm not really convinced because you have to understand something. Russia is still selling all their oil.
Yeah.
They're just
On the
selling
black
it.
market or to other places?
Well, it's sanctioned, but we sanction things in a way to keep it on the market because we can't take it off the market. So how do we punish Russia with their oil, but also keep it on the market so we don't have to pay, $8 for a gallon of gas? So
Yeah.
Russia's oil has always been on the market. We've just shrunk basically the number of customers they have, and the number of customers they have left are buying it all.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily increase the amount of oil on the global market because, if they lost half their market share, that's fine because the half that was left just bought the other half's market share. China's increased their purchases of Russian oil by ungodly numbers, and so is India. So it's not that it was taken off the market; it just went a different direction.
Yeah. They found
So-
willing customers to replace the ones that they had.
Yeah. Now the thing is, if you did remove the price caps and all that other stuff, Russia's oil would go up in price a lot. And what could happen is China and India both say, okay, for the last 2 years, we've bought a lot more oil than we need and we've been stockpiling it. We're not going to buy it anymore at this price. And that right there could cause a huge oversupply in the market and make everything crash. Does that make sense?
It does.
Because China is buying about 1 million more barrels a day from Russia than they need. And they're just storing it for later because it's cheap.
That's what
It's
they
got a
did in
price
row
cap.
crops, Matt. Between the first Trump administration and now, they did the exact same thing with row crops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Didn't the Saudis, I remember reading this a couple of months ago, didn't the Saudis increase their production drastically over the last couple of months? And that's why we're seeing, somewhat of a drop of price at the gas pump right now. It has nothing to do with anything that Trump is doing.
Yeah, by the end of September, it will be over 2 million barrels a day that they've increased their production. But the reason we're not, so anytime in history, the market would have completely collapsed because of that. So the the crash of 2018 was a 1 million barrel a day increase, caused that entire crash. So now we're going to be up to 2.2 million barrels a day. But what's happening is all of that is being absorbed by China and India. They're just buying that much more from Russia at a big discount. So we're not realizing the effect of these OPEC increases. So they're just gaining market share like crazy. We're losing market share like crazy. Production's about to start declining rapidly in the United States. So, if all of that stuff with Russia comes off, I think there's a good chance that China and India say, okay, we're done buying cheap oil. We've got a huge stockpile of it, and Russia keeps producing. That is what will trigger the market crash, not just removing the sanctions. You know what I mean?
I do. That makes sense. I want to put my professor cap on for a minute. Hey, Ray, welcome from Nova Scotia. I wish I was there today because my shoes almost melted to my driveway when I went outside this morning. I want to put on my professor cap for a minute, and I want to get all your takes on this, and I'm going to bring AgriCast into this because we've mentioned China. So the really dark cloud that I see on the horizon is this. So kind of speaking to what both of you have said, our ability to respond to international crises, whether it's in food or energy or whatever it might be, is only as good as the relationships that we have in place with the countries around the world that we do business with, that we negotiate with, that we've built long-term relationships with. So my argument is, and one of the things that really scares me, Matt and Michael and AgriCast, about what's happening right now in energy and in agriculture and in national security, is that these relationships that we fall back on, like during the 2008 economy crash, these relationships that we fall back on, I don't think they're going to be completely gone, but they're not going to be as strong. We've already got this, global situation where it's like, yeah, we're kind of in it together with these other countries, but you can already see where they're making their own trade deals, Matt, on energy. They're making their own trade deals, AgriCast, on agriculture. They're making their own security deals, Michael, in the security area. So when we've got these really bad storms brewing on the horizon with energy prices doubling that you talk about, Mr. Global. The markets today, keep me honest here, AgriCast, but we finished, Purdue is saying corn is break even right now at $4.28 a bushel. And weren't we at about $3.75 at the market close today, AgriCast?
Yeah, the basis is way under that, right? Like the farmers aren't going to see that 428, and 428's an awful lofty price for a big company like Purdue or CME Group or somebody to expect the farmer to achieve when they're not going to get it when they take it to the elevator. Well,
and
right?
I think that's
they can preach it all they want, but it's just not there. The money's just not there, right? Like, what are you just going to give them another $2? Guess where the $1.50's coming from? It's coming from federal bailouts, right? That's where they're coming up with the 428, right? They'll never get there. The price, I mean, it would be a tough road to hoe to get there price wise.
Well, I say all of this because I know that everybody gets discouraged, and sometimes I hear, in personal conversations that I'm having, like when I went and gave these speeches and I was at the Missouri State Fair, there is a fatigue that comes with constantly pushing back against what's happening. But you've got this doubling of energy prices, maybe even more than that coming in energy. You've got a 15% bankruptcy scare coming in agriculture. You've got a national security issue where our former allies are now go it alone, and they're creating their own, international agreements, which, by the way, the reason we stepped up as the key player, my cousin's here tonight. He's kind of like you, Michael, background in the military, national security, et cetera. These relationships, selfishly, we created those so that we could keep our own personal interest at the forefront. It wasn't all about making the world a better place. It was about protecting American interest. So now you've got this storm coming in energy, you've got this storm coming in agriculture, and you've got this storm coming in national security. And at the same time, we're tearing down the international relationships that would help us get through these storms, when the time comes. Am I crazy to think that way, Matt, or do you see it that way too?
No, I think you're exactly right.
Yeah.
So, Will, that's the State Department's job, and we have completely gutted the State Department. And when we talk about American national interest, American national power, we use an DIME. It's diplomacy, intelligence, information, military, and economic, and we apply those to any partner nation that we have, any area in the world. We can't always use the big M, which is the military, to solve every problem. But
Yeah.
we've gutted the State Department now, where we had agricultural expertise, where we had economic expertise in each one of those regions. Those people were subject matter experts in those regions. Not to mention, and this I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but the president's envoy to negotiate with Russia, Witkoff, is a real estate agent. And he's using Russian interpreters to negotiate with the Russians, and there's absolutely no transcript of any of the meetings that are going on.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, and we ran into that during the first administration, right? When they had that summit, and he and Putin spent over an hour and a half together with no translators. Well, just the Russian translator present. Why do you think that there are so many conspiracy theories? Because of things just like that, I don't know. Like, I'm not hopeless. I'm not helpless about this situation, but I think we've got to be cognizant of the fact that this isn't just normal pushback against a politician that we don't like. We've really got to pay attention as everyday average citizens, so that when we're discussing this stuff in the general public with people who we think we might be able to convince, we need to understand how this stuff works. And I think, it's just my own humble opinion, but I think that's why, Mr. Global, the videos that you do and the videos that I do and the information that AgriCast provides and Michael and other people that come on here, I think that's why these are hitting home, because we really do need to talk about not just how serious these issues are, but we need to be able to discuss the ramifications and how we stop it. Because as scary as this sounds, I think it's even worse than what most people think it is.
Well, Will, the last thing I'll tell you about, and I got to drop off.
You bet, Michael. You bet. Go ahead.
Before the cicadas get too loud out here, but
I hear them.
Yeah. So, hey, China for the last 10 years has on all their navigational charts in the South China Sea has put the 9 dash. There's what we refer to as the 9 dash line. Through diplomacy, we've been trying to figure out for the last 10 years what the meaning of those 9 dash lines are. And, you could have a regional conflict that starts over a, violation of what China fears is a violation that in regards to those 9 dash lines that they've marked on every one of their navigational charts. And that regional conflict can quickly spread. And you want to talk about impacts on inflation. Shut down the South China Sea, which is, that's the shipping transport for a lot of goods and services that come here to the United States and supply the entire world. And that is what you need the State Department for, is to work those issues through diplomacy to define what those 9 dash lines mean, and so that we can better understand what their intent is and work with our partner nations in the region so that we can better understand, those. Because when we have, that's one part of the world where there is no NATO that is there, right? So there's a lot of loose agreements with other countries that are there, but we don't have anything like NATO in that part of the country, and that's why it's so that part of the world. That's why it's so dangerous.
How much energy comes through that part of the world, Mr. Global? Do you know that off the top of your head? Southeast Asia, the Pacific, that type of thing. Is most of that coming from the Middle East across the Atlantic, or how much energy comes through that part of the world?
Most of it is going that direction. A lot, a whole lot, because China imports, I believe, 76% of the oil they use. They are largely dependent on other nations. Russia, OPEC, OPEC nations, and they get a ton of LNG. Not They quit buying LNG from the United States, by the way. They stopped completely. But there's a ton of energy that goes through there, an enormous amount.
I want
Let me
to,
ask.
Michael,
Oh,
thank
sorry.
you for
Go ahead.
bringing that up, by the way. I was just going to say real quick, and Michael is a great guest to have, and it was really good to see him because he really is a national security expert. I wanted to ask you for a question for a long time, Matt. And again, I want to tell everybody in advance, I'm not trying to be a nervous Nelly or scare anybody. I really want to know the answer to this question. At what cost historically, and if you don't know the answer, maybe you could just do a video about it in the next couple of weeks. At what cost does energy drive conflict? Is there a historical point at which energy cost reaches a certain level that countries begin to carry out acts of militarism in order to secure energy resources? And is there any danger out there right now that something like that, could happen if energy prices double or quadruple like you fear?
I don't know the cost. I've never been asked that question before. That's a great question.
Well, I'll let you bank it.
Um,
Maybe we'll see a video on that if you need
Typically,
to.
what drives conflict is not cost driven; it's scarcity, right?
Yeah,
And when cost is high, there's not a lot of scarcity. Honestly,
yeah,
there's plenty to be had if you're willing to buy
yeah.
it. But that's a great question. I guess I could go back and look historically and see if there's some correlating evidence there. But that's nothing I've ever heard anyone discuss. And I listen to a lot of Peter Zane, so
Yeah, I wonder if that's more likely among that second tier of countries that don't have the financial ability to buy energy at any cost. I wonder if you would see it there before you would see it anywhere, probably, right?
yeah. Well,
Let
plus
me ask.
a lot of
Let me.
countries
Sorry. Go ahead,
negotiate.
Matt.
A lot of countries negotiate their prices.
Yeah,
So, we see the market price of oil and the market price of natural gas. But when India is purchasing oil from Russia, and you say, okay, well, that oil has a $60 price cap on it. They're paying $60. Well, not necessarily. Those they're broad negotiations that involve other goods. So, like if there's stuff that Russia needs from India, it's a multi-layered negotiation. So, what India is actually paying for Russian oil, it could be $40 because there's other commodities in that exchange. So, it's usually a basket of things that they're trading. So,
that
and
makes sense.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it's hard to say if there's a price point that causes conflict.
I
Let
was
me
going
ask
to
y'all
ask you that
something.
question. Go ahead, Zeppo. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. Yeah, because there's a lot of questions in the chat, so I just wanted to phrase this to all of you. So, beyond the education and information portion of this, which is important that we're supplying to everyone now, what are the steps that people can take to turn this around? What are the solutions here to Trump's overreach? We've got, of course, the midterms coming up, and I think it should be stated how important that is and how important it is for everyone to get involved now to push towards winning in 2026. There are questions about him meddling in the elections, and there's worries about all of that. And we know that part of his plan is to keep us all scared and also question if elections are even going to count and all that nonsense. And we can't be scared. But what are some of the solutions? What are some of the actions that we can take now to start pushing back against this?
Matt, could I give the political participation answer part of that first? Do you mind? So one thing I want to tell everybody, and I was going to talk about, by the way, this may be the best live we've ever done, and I want to thank everybody for participating tonight. I was just looking at the time, and we've already had an hour and a half go by, and I feel like I've been on here for 15 minutes, and now I'm panicking about the amount of time we have left. But this has been an incredible live. So Matt, Michael, Agricast, thank you. One thing I want to say to everybody is you've got to start really being picky about who you're giving donations and your time to from an organizational perspective. And you really need to make sure that you are donating to and participating with organizations that are working hard to get the work done. Why do I say that? You guys know that Matt's heard me say this. I know he agrees with it 100%. If you're going to belong to an organization, you're going to call yourself something, whether it's a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, a Christian, a Freemason, a PTA member, you need to be the loudest critic of that organization when it does something that's not conducive to getting the work done. A lot of you have probably read about this issue. They call it the mothership, where we've got some big Democratic consultants in Washington, D.C. that raised $260 million in the last election cycle. Now, I'm not talking about the DNC, et cetera, but these were PACs. You get text messages from them on your phone, right? And it says, if you want to participate in this survey, donate $3, et cetera. There are all kinds of PACs out there. They raised $260 million. Listen to this, guys. They only spent a little over $20 million on campaigns. The rest of that went into the pockets of some of these biggest consultants in Washington, D.C. So the homework assignment that I want to give everybody, number one, is that you need to be focused on supporting, and you know where I'm going to go with this, everybody, so hold tight because I'm going to get there. You need to be focused on supporting organizations that are doing the hard work, like the Back 40, like your local organizations. Pick a candidate that you support that is right on the energy policies that Mr. Global talks about, that is right on the rural programs that I talk about, and support those candidates directly with your time, your effort, and your money. Do not give any more money to an organization that you don't understand or you don't know how they're getting the work done. The second thing I want to say on that is go to the sources that you trust. And I'm just going to tell you, and this is going to sound cocky and I don't mean it that way. Before I met Mr. Global, I was one of those guys politically that went around blaming energy prices and the cost of per gallon fuel on the president of the United States of America. Okay? That was me. I was the guy that knew it all about energy. Well, gas prices are going up because of da-da-da-da-da. Well, I've learned a thing or two. I now think I have the best understanding at the age of 57 that I've ever had in my life about what really drives energy policy. Well, guys, think about it. I'm going to ask you in the comments. When you educate yourself, good old Jeff down there. Wonder who Jeff follows, Mr. Global. If you educate yourself, what are you able to do when you're focusing on issues, when you're trying to fix things, when you're looking for candidates that you can support? You make better decisions because you're educated. That's the bottom line. You understand the issues better. So now, when I'm talking to a candidate, when I'm working with a candidate, and I'm trying to figure out, where do they stand on energy policy? How well do they understand it? I bounce some of that knowledge off of what I've learned here from Mr. Global. Same thing on ag policy, same thing on rural issues. So I'm just telling you, this is a great place to come to learn what the facts are when you're considering who you're going to support and who you're going to put your money behind. Because you can take the facts that you learn here, you can take the facts that you learn from AgriCast, the facts that you learn from Mr. Global, and you can bounce what a candidate is saying off of those facts, and you can tell if they're bullshitting you or not, okay? And then the last thing I would say is support us. I mean, Mr. Global and I are going around the country. We're talking about energy policy. We're talking about good rural policy. And here's the impact that I believe that has. First of all, for the first time ever, rural America feels like there's somebody showing up there for them. That's the biggest comment we got in Lincoln, Illinois. Mr. Global and I both is thank you for coming. Nobody has been here before. Nobody listens to us. And the second thing I will tell you is now, everywhere we go, we've got a core group of people that attend those events that understand energy policy better and they understand rural policy better. And I think it's critical that you support organizations like ours that allow us to get that work done. And then the last thing I'm going to tell you guys, and I know it's discouraging because it doesn't change overnight, but keep showing up. Keep writing those emails. Keep making those phone calls. You know, I love Jess Piper. We need 500 of her, Tracy. We need 500 of her. Let's figure out a way to clone her because I love her stuff. But we've got to keep showing up. No matter how tired we get, no matter how discouraging it is, like Tweety says, 80% of it is showing up. So that's my advice. That's my advice. And I'll turn it over to you. Got anything you want to add to that, Matt? Or did I say it so well there's nothing left to be said?
You did pretty good, Will. I'm impressed. I will say this, especially in the social media space and the media space, there's a group of people. There's basically two groups of people. There's a group of people, and I'm part of this group, and Will is part of this group, that just want you to know the truth, like how things work, right? He wants you to know about agriculture. I want you to know about energy, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. We just want you to know and be educated on the things that we know, right? Sometimes I say things that make people mad. Sometimes I say things that make people happy. But my goal is to always just give you the truth, right? There's a whole nother group of people that is much larger, and their whole goal is to give you misinformation to convince you of something because it furthers what they want. And that's basically the two kinds of people that exist on social media. The big group is really easy to spot. Because one, they're never wrong. And two, they spend half of their time telling you how great they are. If Will says something that turns out not to be true, or if I say something that's wrong, we will immediately correct ourselves and say, hey, I got this wrong. It was this and not that.
And we've done that.
Yeah,
We've both done
we're always
videos saying
trying to help and educate authentically. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care what party you're in. None of that matters at all. The thing that matters to me is that I honestly believe that misinformation is the number one enemy of this country. And we are completely inundated with it. People use it for profit. People use it for power. People use it for everything. And that's because so many people believe it. And I don't play that game. So those are the people that you need to identify.
I agree 100%. Hey, Matt, I know you've been up here a long time. Would you be up for let a few people pop up in the boxes and ask some questions? If you need to go, I understand, but I thought I'd let a few people up to ask some questions.
That's fine.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Thank you for everybody's patience. I'm going to start. Hey, Zeppo, would you mind just letting people come up? Thank you. Richard, how are you? Thanks for being patient down there. I made you wait forever.
So I dropped out. How
are you? That's too bad. Richard was down there so long, he started another conversation. So, hey, John Oble, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for being so patient, man. I left you down there forever.
Oh, no problem. Hey, listen, I'm just waiting for you to give Kehoe a run for his money is all.
I swear to God,
just waiting
that's
for
not
it.
why I let you come up, because I did see that comment down there.
No, I'm waiting for it. But do you see a point where Missourians or rural people in general are slowly go back to, voting more democratically as they did back in the day, with all these policies just hurting them super bad? Because it seems to me like people are making the connection that these policies are hurting them, but they're never wanting to take the logical next step and understanding that.
Man, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you some positive news, but you're probably going to feel the same way about it that I do. I do think it's beginning to happen now. It's just not happening as fast as we want to see it happen. So I will tell you how it typically works. Like this happened to Mr. Global and I when we went out to Lincoln, Illinois to do the Meet in the Middle event. What will typically happen is we'll get about, I would say these events have about 55, 60% Democrat, 30% independent, 5 to 10% Republican. And what will typically happen is when the event's over and people are starting to clear out, that's when you'll see that person that voted for Donald Trump walk up to the front of the room and they'll make that comment, you know what, I voted for him and I made the wrong decision and I appreciate what you're saying. One of the reasons we're pushing so hard, John, to get the funding that we need is that we have got a whole host of farmers and ranchers out there that voted for Donald Trump who did not get their reimbursements for rotational grazing and that type of thing. One of them had a huge ranch down in Florida that they've had to sell, and they're having to buy a smaller place in another state because they weren't reimbursed for their rotational grazing that they put in place. We've got a bunch of those kinds of people that are so angry about what happened that they're just flat out coming out and saying, I was wrong. I made a mistake in supporting this guy, and I will go on national network news to tell people why I made a mistake and what we need to do to prevent it from happening again. Which, so it's happening, but it's just not happening as quickly as you and I would like to see it. Now, specifically here in Missouri, I do want to give you some good news, but that good news comes with a lot of hard work that we need to do. So just in the city of St. Louis, okay, John, and like St. Louis and Columbia and Jefferson City and Kansas City and Springfield is becoming more and more this way. These are like blue meccas with a lot of votes in deep red, Missouri. We have got 100,000 people, 50,000 voters who didn't vote in St. Louis. And we know that St. Louis is indexed 70% Democrat, okay, which means, well, here, let me get to the number in a minute. And then we've got 50,000 people that are not registered to vote in St. Louis. So that is a pool of 100,000 voters that either did not vote or they're not registered. When you bounce that 70% index off of them, okay, that means there are 70,000 possible votes to abolish these policies, to put the right people in office here in the state of Missouri, just in the city of St. Louis alone. In addition to that, out in rural Missouri, where you've got much lower numbers of people that are not registered to vote, we've seen about a 9% shift among independents and people in the Republican Party that have voted for Donald Trump. And I truly believe, as somebody that's been involved in political consulting for 30 years, I truly believe that those two numbers together, if we can harness that, and we can quit this divide between rural and urban, and, because half the consultants say we only need to focus on the cities, screw rural Missouri. The other half say we just need 3% out of rural America. We can't get any more out of the cities. If we focus on both of those things, I'm 100% confident we can turn this state back to where it was before, where it was a purple state, where we had good politicians on both sides battling it out on policy ideas. But it could take a while. I don't want to lie to you. If you know the history of Missouri, and it sounds like you might, it took them 23 years to change this state. And it could take us that long to change it back. So we got to be in it for the long haul. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. But hey, you know what? Let me know of anything, like all the projects you're doing, because I'd love to get involved. I'd love to be active in whatever projects you're.
You bet, man. Go to the Back 40 Official, all spelled out.com. And we've got a calendar in there. We're talking about the things that we're doing. Would encourage you to come up on future lives. There's an email address in there where you can email us to tell us you want to get plugged in. And one thing about this is this isn't about the clout for Mr. Global and I and Zeppo and the other people in Back 40. It's like my grandpa used to say, if you're a leader and nobody's following you, you're just a guy taking a walk. So this is about everybody. So we'd love to have you. And I appreciate you coming up.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. That's what I love to hear. That's what I love to hear. Back up. How are you today? We got you muted. There you go. How are you today? Sorry to keep you waiting so
Good.
No. I wasn't waiting long at all. And hey, just first of all, thank you for what you're doing. I live in New Mexico. I'm a 56-year-old female. I'm a Desert Storm veteran.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. I don't have a specific question. I know how diverse New Mexico is. We've got Los Alamos, we've got Trinity Site, we've got White Sands Missile Range. We've got oil, we've got water disputes. I don't have a specific question. I think I just wanted you to talk generally about the water dispute in New Mexico and the oil.
I'm going to be right up front with you. The only thing
And farming.
yeah, the only thing I know about the water disputes out there, is from a high level perspective, and that is we've got a lot of foreign government entities that are coming in with a lot of money and they're trying to buy up water rights, et cetera. And the same thing is happening from a corporate perspective. So you guys I don't know if you guys saw this, there was a creator who just popped up out of the woodwork, who's been doing some really good work in East Texas about a water board person out there who actually approved while they were on the board for a company to come in, a conglomerate to come in and dig like 20 wells so that they could send water to some areas where there's a lot of development. So I think the biggest challenge that we've got right now is that the powers on the other side that are trying to buy up these water rights so they can ship these limited supplies of water to other parts of the country, they've got a lot of money, they have a lot of power to lobby behind them, and it's going to take one hell of a grassroots movement to push back against that.
Are
So
you talking about a land grab?
it's not really, yeah, it is. It's not as much a land grab because the crazy thing is you don't need a lot of acreage to punch a bunch of holes in the ground into the aquifer to start drawing water out. I don't know
And
how
is
it
that
the oil
is that
industry.
international or is that
It's international, yeah. I mean, Saudi
Okay.
Arabia was one of the countries that
Wow.
was coming in there to do that. There have been companies from other parts. I mean, they're viewing it all as an investment, okay? The same thing is happening with these companies like Acre Trader, et cetera. People think they're buying up the land to farm. They're not. Thank you for the gifts, guys. What they're doing is they're buying up the land, they're leasing it back to farmers, and then they're bundling all of this farmland together and using it as an asset to go take out loans to do bigger capitalistic projects. And the problem is if those projects go under, like most new businesses do, then it's going to result in, it's going to result in these big bundled land masses that they put together in farmland being negatively impacted.
Okay, and so
You remember the
sorry.
stories from the housing crisis where the sheriff was showing up at people's doors and these people were renting properties and their rent was paid on time, but they were still being evicted because the homeowner didn't pay their mortgage on the property?
right.
Those are the kinds of things that we could see happen in farming if the people that have bundled these properties together declare bankruptcy and they have big projects that go under where the farmland is the asset that's being used to guarantee the capitalism.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And I know green chili is huge in New Mexico,
Yeah.
and but we don't have a lot of water.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for coming up.
Tell me a little bit about the dispute between Texas and New Mexico with water rights.
I know nothing about it. And I'm going to
Okay,
be right
all
up
right.
front with you. I'm not, do you know something, Matt?
Oh. And oil. I mean, oil's big in New Mexico.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been here for 13 years. I'm originally from California.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know anything about.
That's fine.
between the two
I
states.
just wanted to come up and pick your brain and
All right,
keep up
thank
the
you.
good work.
I know
Yeah,
about
keep
the
up
water.
the good work.
I
I know about
appreciate
the
it.
water.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
I can't remember the year. It was like in the 30s. There was a pact between Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas over water rights. And what has happened over the last 15 years? It's some in Colorado, but New Mexico and Texas have been pumping an enormous amount of groundwater for hydraulic fracturing. And so this is, there's water scarcity, right? And so there's a battle brewing over that because, especially West Texas, southeast New Mexico is just pumping an enormous amount of water out of the aquifers. And
Yeah.
Colorado's some, but not near to the extent of Texas and New Mexico. So they're basically fighting over the water, but they've had a nearly 100-year, well, it was sometime in the 30s. I think it was called the Rio Grande Compact or something like that. You can look it up. But they've had this 90 to 100-year agreement over water rights. And I think Colorado's stance is basically that New Mexico and Texas are in violation of that agreement with the amount of water they're pumping out of the aquifer.
Well, you learn something new every day, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Hey, back up. Thank you so much for being patient. Go ahead and come on up and tell us what's on your mind.
Hi, I'm 55, North Dakota. Still waking up alive. I voted for Harris, but I would have voted for Bernie because um, my question tends to be um, how many people are active in initiating and planning town halls to call elected official employees, whether they're your sheriff or your mayor or your chief of police or a judge here and there, to educate the public on something, answer questions and articulate answers, and take questions from the public that aren't responded to with belligerence or cynicism. To actually tell the people this is what the plan is in relation to the big picture, because I think power going all the way up to the Supreme Court and having a say, kind of the antithesis of that is the citizen having a town
Yeah.
hall that can focus on the ballot measure. And the
Yeah.
reason
Yeah.
the reason for that for me is if a town hall decided to make it illegal for any store or restaurant to throw away good food while people are hungry in the streets. Now, maybe there's some organization that needs to happen that goes into planning, but just for that alone to make an impact in the town hall locally would make national news, and then more people start about thinking about where all this stuff is going and why
Yeah.
our problems exist. How are we perpetuating those problems? How do we solve them?
That's what we're trying to do here. And to answer your question, I think that there are a lot of organizations out there doing a lot of outreach work. In other words, sending the emails, making the calls, doing the text messaging, that type of thing. I don't think there are as many doing the telephone town halls. I'll tell you, we're doing that here. You may not have been on here when we were talking about it, but we've got a nationwide telephone town hall coming up at the end of the month. And we're going to be talking about the impacts of the BBB on Medicaid and healthcare in rural America. And then we're also going to be talking about what we can do now between now and the end of the year to kind of mitigate for those cuts, because they've stopped the funding, et cetera, for subsidies for the additional subsidies that Biden put in place for Obamacare, et cetera. So we're trying to do that here. But to your point, I don't think there's enough of that. Now, some of that may be that, I do telephone town halls. It's one of the things I do for a living with my business. So I understand how they work. They're a little bit complicated and you've got to have some, technology behind it. But I agree with you 100%. We need to be, doing more of that. So, hey, Charlie, thanks for your patience. Come on up and let us know what's on your mind.
Hey, great. Will, I'll tell you, I'm pretty impressed by how verbose you are. You're keeping that going at a pretty good clip.
Yeah, well, I got to be honest with you, brother. I'm about to,
I'm pretty
to
impressed.
go get my Diet Pepsi and sit back and turn on This Farming Life. So,
there you go.
yeah.
Hey, I had a question for Mr. Global, if he can answer this. I'm pretty sure he hasn't worked for an electric utility, but I wanted to ask him a question about energy prices and not fuel prices, energy prices. Why have energy prices over the past 20, 25 years continued to rise when natural gas prices and fuel prices were historically low? I wanted to see if you had any thoughts on that.
You're muted, Matt.
There you go. Can you hear me now? My bad. Specifically, the delivery of the energy is my answer. I think, right now we're seeing enormous energy prices, and, the energy can be cheap, but if it costs a fortune to get it to you, that makes it expensive. And I think personally, and no, I've never worked for a utility, But we went through about a 20-year period in this country, as you may know, where our energy consumption was just flat, right? We did very well at energy efficiency, making our cars more efficient, our homes more efficient. We added, you know, 40 million people and 20 million homes, and over that 20-year period, and our energy consumption stayed the same or even declined a little bit. But I think through that process, we became very sort of lackadaisical with planning for the future. And now we have energy demand increasing rapidly, and we're still on an old grid, right? Space in the grid and capacity and future energy demand as it's growing really fast is causing really high auction prices. I think a long period of time where we got lazy and just thought everything was going to be fine forever, and technology caught up with us, and bam, we're in a crunch right now, and we're way behind on the grid. I do talk about how natural gas impacts electricity prices a lot, but what we're seeing right now is not natural gas related. This is grid related. This is energy
I would
demand.
agree with you. The last 2 years, specifically in PJM, MISO, and SPP, the increase in costs are related to capacity costs,
Yeah.
specifically capacity. And for people in the chat that don't understand what capacity is, it's being able to generate the power. It's having the generation resource in place to generate power or energy. So there's two sides of that. You have to have the generation resource, and then you got to make it, and that's what the fuels are for. So that's that's the energy market.
Yeah.
But you are right. The transmission piece is the answer. I knew the answer. It was a test. Okay, the transmission and distribution sector. But we've been investing in that in 25 years, and specifically a lot beginning around 2007, following the 2003 Great Lakes Loop outage. It took out Detroit, Cleveland, and I believe Buffalo, and the major sector came out, and with that many people out of service for 3 or 4 days, FERC came out, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, directed everybody, all the utilities, to not mandate, but directed them to join an RTO to make sure they were part of a regional transmission organization and to invest in your transmission. And so the utilities seeing an option or an opportunity here to get a 10% return on any capital investment in their transmission, dump as much money as they can into it every year. And that's why prices from 2000 to about 2024 have been on the dramatic rise.
Yeah. Charlie, thanks a lot for coming up and asking the questions. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Listen, I had a question down there from I think it was Used Cows. So what's happening in East Texas? Let me answer this real quick because I think this is a good question. What's happening is the Bass brothers. I think it's Kyle Bass. I could be wrong about that, but they've got a company out there called Conservation Equity Management, I think is the name of it. And what they're doing is they're going out to, and I'm probably going to say this name wrong. I'm trying to learn Spanish off my phone, so bear with me. But the Carrizo Wilcox Aquifer in East Texas, what they're doing is they bought land out there and they kind of cut a sweetheart deal, I think, with a guy that used to sit on the water board out there. And they want to pump that water out of the aquifer and use it for development around different parts of the state. And there's been a huge public outcry. They bought over 11,000 acres. I may be a little bit wrong on the totals that I'm giving you here in terms of, the amount of land that's been purchased and, and that type of thing. But I feel like I'm pretty solid on the overall story. You asked the question, how could you, get involved, or what can people do to push back against that? What I would recommend you do is there are, what is the name of the river authority? Help me out. Is it the Natchez or Natchez River Authority? Is that the name of it? For Used Cows, is that the name of it down there? I think it's the Angelina and Natchez River Authority. They're really pushing back against this. So what I recommend is that you reach out to them and just get plugged into, the Natchez. It's the River Authority for the Angelina and Natchez River. I lived in Texas for like 8 years, so I'm a little bit familiar with the rivers and stuff down there. But I would reach out to them, reach out to the River Authority, because Kelly Holcomb, who's a part of that River Authority, has really been pushing back in the media against this. So that would be my recommendation. If you want to get involved in that and you want to push back, I'd reach out to Kelly Holcomb there at the River Authority, and they can get you plugged in. All right, Zeppo, what do we need to talk about before we close her down?
I think we're good. Well, we're running a little bit late. I'm just going to mention to everyone the next thing coming up, which is the Telephone Town Hall, August 26th from 8 to 9 p.m. Central Time. Anyone can join. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to our website. It's theback40official.com, theback40official.com. We have a calendar on there. You can see that event and all the rest of them, but mark your calendars, August 26th from 8 to 9 p.m. Central.
Yeah, you got it. Listen, everybody, this was an incredible live. We got over 200,000 likes tonight. We had 800 people in the live at one time. We had 40,000 people that came through the live tonight. So this may be the largest live we've ever had in terms of the number of people that came through the live. And used cows, I hope I answered that question for you and got you some information that you need. I just want to tell everybody thank you. And listen, if you want to help Mr. Global and I go around the country and do these events, my truck that's sitting in my driveway right now has over 200,000 miles on it. So I can promise you any donations you make to this thing are not going for Will to get a new King Ranch Edition Ford F-250, all right? So if you donate to this, it's to put our butts in seats so that we can go around this country, have a flea bag motel we can stay at when we do events over a couple of different days. We're going to use the money to do the right thing. So appreciate everybody. Thanks for coming in tonight. The next live is going to be Thursday night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Lick Branch, don't worry about political leanings. Listen to the information and go do your own research. And if you can't disprove it, then it's true. Everybody have a great night. We'll talk to you Thursday. Mr. Global, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Have a good night, guys.